So yesterday we started with the incorporation of the company and we had covered section number 3. Then we had covered section number 7 and we had finished section 7 completely. So the section 3 3A, which was minimum number of members for the companies and also for the OPC. And then section 7, what are the documents which are required and how to incorporate the company. Today we'll again cover section 7 and section 3 once again, specifically for the provisions with respect to OPC. And thereafter we'll start with the provisions for section 8 company, that is not for profit company. And then we will discuss section number 9 here. Okay. So we discussed that in section 3, what are the type of companies you can incorporate. So you can incorporate a company which has got either a unlimited liability or the company which is limited by shares or the company which is limited by guarantee. And thereafter we discussed that the company can be formed for any lawful purpose by 7 subscribers in case of a public company, 2 or more in case of a private company, and 1 person in case of a OPC. So this is what we had discussed. Thereafter we saw that how they can incorporate the company by subscribing their name to the memorandum of association. And then in case of OPC, we had some separate provisions, right? So these blank pages that I've left, it's for OPC only. We'll write it now. Then we also saw that if the number of members, it gets reduced below 2 or 7 in case of private or public company, and the company continues to do the business, then up to 6 months, the liability remains same like of a limited liability. But if they continue to do the business beyond 6 months, then in that case, we say that the liability of the remaining members, it becomes unlimited with respect to all the debts of the company. Thereafter, we discussed with respect to the incorporation. So incorporation, if you want to do, you need to form file Spice Plus. Plus, if you are going to incorporate a company which is regulated by some sectoral regulator, then you also need to first obtain the name of, basically first obtain the approval from the sectoral regulator. Only thereafter you will be allowed to incorporate the company. Then we discussed that what all documents would be sent to the ROC. So the memorandum of association, declaration by the professional and the first director, then declaration by each subscriber and the first director, the address for correspondence, the name, identity, residential address, nationality of every subscriber to the memorandum, along with their proof of identity. Then a declaration by the first director, basically the details of the first director along with the director identification number and their proof of identity. Then if the first directors of the company or others, they act, so they'll give their consent also here. Then registrar is going to register all the documents and issue the certificate of incorporation. And then we say that the company is incorporated. In the certificate of incorporation, you will find the corporate identity number, which will be the distinct identity of the company under the certificates. Then all the documents and informations as originally filed under subsection 1 should be kept at the registered office of the company, right? Till the time the company is not completely dissolved under this act. And if any false information is provided or suppressed any material information, then in that case, the company will be liable. Basically, the person who had filed the documents and was aware, they'll be filed or they'll be penalized under section 447, which is for fraud. Then subsection 6 has the additional penalty in addition to subsection 5, that the promoters and the person who gave the declaration of the company, the first directors, they will be again penalized or liable for the action under section 447 for fraud. Then again, we have subsection 7. In addition to subsection 6, the tribunal can also take certain actions, and the tribunal will take these actions upon the application which is made with the tribunal. Then, so this is what we had covered yesterday in detail. And today we'll start with the incorporation of one person company. So in case of one person company, as we know that this is a one member company, right? This I have cropped from your module. Then this is a private company by nature. This is a new concept. The concept of OPC is a new concept. Okay. And when I say this is a new concept, this means in the 1956 Act, there was no one person company. It was introduced only in the 2013 Act. Then if you see, it is to encourage entrepreneurship and corporatization of the business. Procedures are made simple and a lot of exemptions have been given to that. Basically, the sole proprietor is now given the two benefits which was the biggest disadvantage for a sole proprietor. So a sole proprietor will be provided a separate legal entity with limited liability, right? When the person incorporates the OPC versus if the person is a sole proprietor, then in both the cases, in this cases, both your liability is what it is unlimited, and also in case of a sole proprietorship, there is no separate legal entity. There will be no separate legal entity. Okay. Now, if we discuss here in case of a one person company, so this I have again picked up from the rules. So this is again important because if you get a question with respect to the incorporation of a OPC, you'll have to write all these points. So it says that only a natural person who is an Indian citizen, whether resident in India or otherwise, can incorporate a one person company. So can I say ABC Limited can incorporate a one person company? Answer is no, only the natural person. So you, me, us, like we are the natural person. So a body corporate cannot incorporate a OPC. Secondly, the person needs to be an Indian citizen. Okay. So only a natural person who is an Indian citizen. Now this is the amendment. Whether resident in India or otherwise will be allowed to incorporate the one person company. So just see shall be eligible to incorporate one person company and shall be the nominee of the sole proprietor, sole member of the one person company. So this is again the eligibility for the nominee. Okay. This is for the nominee that the person shall be eligible to incorporate one person company and shall also be the nominee shall also be the natural person and also an Indian citizen. Okay. Leave the explanation part right now. For time being, just leave it. Now just discuss that if a natural person, right? A natural person shall not be the member of more than, right? He shall not be the member for not more than one OPC at any point of time, and the said person shall not be nominee for more than one OPC. So if I say that Yash wants to become the member of two OPC, let's say OPC 1 and OPC 2, so he can become the member of OPC 1, okay, and he can become the nominee of OPC 2. Rest any third OPC, he can neither be the member nor he can be the nominee. Also, if I say that if Yash wants to become the member of this OPC, okay, if the Yash wants to become the member of this OPC, he can be the member. He is a nominee here. So he will be nominee till the time the original member or the member of this OPC2 is not disqualified or is not died. So let's say the member of this OPC2 is now disqualified to enter into contract. Now in this case, Yash will automatically become the member of that company. Now Yash will have to take a decision whether he wants to remain the member in this OPC1 or he wants to now join OPC2 as a member of the company, because at one point of time he can be a member only in one OPC. Is this clear? यश दो जगह ओपीसी का या दो अलग अलग ओपीसी का मेंबर नहीं बन सकता, वो एक ही जगह का बनेगा और उसको फिर डिसाइड करना होगा कि वो कहां पर मेंबर बनना चाहता है. Then where the natural person being one person member in one person company in accordance with this rule becomes the member in another such company by virtue of being nominee in that OPC, such person shall meet the criteria. So abhi aa kya yahan pe? The such person shall meet the eligibility criteria specified in subrule 2 within a period of 180 days. So up to 180 days, Yash can continue to be the member in both the companies. But after 180 days, Yash will have to decide that which OPC he wants to be in, right? OPC 1 or OPC 2. Guys, is this clear? Is this clear? Okay, then we have no minor shall become the member or the nominee of the one person company or can hold share with beneficial interest. So no, a minor can no longer be part of this OPC company. This has been there. Then it said that such a company cannot be incorporated or converted into a Section 8 company. So just remember this point also, that it cannot be a Section 8 company. OPC cannot be a Section 8 company. And then it says that such company cannot carry out the non-banking financial investment activities, including investment in securities of any body corporate. So one person company cannot invest in the securities of the other company A, and B, they cannot do non-banking financial investment activities. अभी ये क्या होता है, बैंक जैसा ही एक्टिविटी है, बट ये लोग बैंक नहीं होते, ठीक है। ये आपको लोन्स वगैरह देते, दे टेक लोन, right, they borrow money, they give loan to other of the people, but they are not bank. Banking industry also does the same thing. They take money from the depositors and they give loan to other person. Same thing they also do. They report, they accept money from one party and they give loan to the other person, and in between they earn their commission. But the concept of NBFC, you must have heard this term, NBFC. The concept of NBFC is quite different, because in case of NBFC, you don't need a license. Of course, you need to register with Reserve Bank of India, but you don't need a license. So such a company like OPC cannot be a NBFC, and OPC also cannot do investments in the other body corporate. Then you have subsection 7, which is now omitted. Subsection 7 is again omitted. So just see, this is an amendment. So as I said, the benefit of studying from the ebook, right? The benefit of studying from the ebook, this is the benefit, that with effect from 1st April 2021, it said that no company can convert voluntarily into any kind of company unless 2 years is expired from the date of incorporation of one person company, except the threshold is increased. So basically earlier it was that one OPC can convert, OPC cannot convert into a normal company, right? Or a public company or a private company. So that's what it was there. So it said that no such company can convert, right, voluntarily into any kind of company. Such company means it's talking about OPC. So it cannot convert in any other kind of company. So be it a public company, a private company, or any other type of company, unless 2 years is expired. So if you have, let's say, incorporated a OPC and after 1 year, okay, so let's say Yash has incorporated a OPC and after 1 year, Ritik comes to Yash and says that, let's convert this OPC into a private limited company, and let's both of them be the member of the company, and let's both of us be the director of the company. हम आग लगा देंगे मार्केट में, नोट छापेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे. So subsection 7 used to say no, not allowed. You cannot convert because yes, you have just incorporated the company. It's been not been 2 years. So for 2 years, it will be the OPC. There was only one exception to that. And what was the exception? That if your paid up capital increases beyond 50 lakhs, so if your paid up capital goes more than 50 lakh, or your turnover goes more than 2 crore, then you'll have to compulsorily convert. But this was talking about the voluntary conversion. So voluntarily you cannot convert. But now this subsection has been omitted, which means now you can incorporate the company, okay? You can convert the company from OPC to any other type of company at any point of time. Is this clear? अब आपके मॉड्यूल के अंदर ये अमेंडमेंट नहीं होगा. आई एम श्योर ये आपके मॉड्यूल के अंदर अमेंडमेंट नहीं होगा. इंस्टीट्यूट होगा क्या? You will get all these amendments at the time of your exam, before exam, let's say in the month of July or August, when RTP will be released. That point of time you'll get these questions. So better you study this way only, and this will be applicable for your exam. Okay, is this clear? Is this clear? Right? Okay, so let's go ahead then. Let's go ahead and let's discuss the provisions of OPC once again, and let's write what if the questions from OPC is asked in the exam. So what will you say in case of OPC? This is a one member company. Then plus there will be one nominee. Then we have in case of OPC, okay? In case of OPC, it is only natural persons who can incorporate. only natural person plus those who are, sorry, citizen of India. Okay. Thereafter, nominee needs to provide prior consent. Yes or no? Correct. Then again, with respect to nominee, fourth point, the nominee can withdraw the consent, right? Also, the nominee can be removed by the member of OPC. But in all these cases, what needs to be done? In all these cases, what needs to be done? What needs to be done? You need to intimate ROC. Yes or no? Just see, this we had not covered today. We have not covered this today, but we discussed this yesterday. Remember? Provided that the written consent is needed, you need to provide it. And then the subscriber may withdraw the consent, change the name, right? It shall be the duty of the member of the OPC to intimate to the registrar. Yes or no? And then any such change will not be deemed to be the, okay. So if you see here, you need to intimate it to the ROC. Okay. And this is the duty of, this is the duty of member, or this is the duty of OPC? This is the duty of the OPC. Okay. So this is the duty of the OPC, that they need to intimate it to the ROC. Okay. What else point you can write about OPC? Minor cannot be the member, right? So the minor cannot be the member of OPC, correct? Minor cannot be the member of OPC. Also, you need to see that, we'll write about this point, that OPC cannot be incorporated, right? OPC cannot be incorporated for, OPC cannot be incorporated for the non-banking investment activities. They also cannot invest in the securities of other body corporate, right? Also, OPC cannot be converted into a Section 8 company. So OPC cannot be converted into a Section 8 company. Correct? Right. Dhaval had already answered this. And then ninth point, uh, where we say that one person can become member or nominee of only one OPC. Yes or no? Basically, there can be one more point here. I'll have to add a blank slide so that I can write a 10th point here also, right? So if due to the incapacity or death of the member, a person being nominee in such OPC becomes member in that OPC while being member in another OPC. Then in that case, he needs to, what he needs to do within 180 days, what he needs to do, what he needs to do, he needs to decide and opt out from any one OPC, right? Within 180 days. Is this clear? Is this clear? 182 है, 180 था, 180 days है. No, 180 days है. 182 जो आपने विनित देखा है वो आपने इसके लिए देखा होगा, वो आपने इसके लिए देखा होगा, वो आपने इसके लिए देखा होगा. आप चेक करो, जस्ट चेक. 182 मस्ट बी फॉर दिस. दोनों 182 डेज है. नो, ये बेयर एक्ट है, ये आपका बेयर एक्ट है, रूल है, तो मतलब मॉड्यूल के अंदर एरर है. देयर इज अ एरर इन द मॉड्यूल. देन देयर इज अ एरर इन दैट मॉड्यूल. इट्स 180 days ओनली, इट्स नॉट 182. मेरे पास बेयर एक्ट हार्ड कॉपी भी है. I have that hard copy. And again, as I say, this I have again got it from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs website. So this is the most updated one, right? And as you can see, this is the amendment. आपने फाउंडेशन में जो पढ़ा है और अब जो आप यहाँ पे पढ़ रहे हो, there is a difference. Can you identify? Can you identify the difference? Please check. Can you identify the difference here? When we had studied the same topic in foundation, we read that डेज रिपीट करो. डेज सिंपल है, आपको सिर्फ 180 डेज याद रखना है. दैट्स इट, एज आई हैव रिटन हियर. सिंपल. डेज में आपको सिर्फ यही याद रखना है, 180 डेज. ओके, 182 डेज का रेलेवेंस खत्म हो गया. क्यों रेलेवेंस खत्म हो गया, आप ये देखो. दिस इज फॉर द इनकॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ कंपनी एंड थिंक रूल्स में अगर हम जाते हैं, सो रूल्स में ही आपको मिल जाएगा इनकॉर्पोरेशन रूल्स. विनित, रेसिडेंट का रेलेवेंस खत्म हो गया है, मैं वही आपको यहां पे दिखा रहा हूं. So if you see here, can you see the amendment now? Can you see the amendment now? This part, can you see now? Whether resident in India or otherwise. Can you see this? Now, earlier it was like this. Earlier the act was like this. So I'll show you here. Okay. So earlier the act read like this. This was not there. Earlier the act read like this, that only the natural person who is an Indian citizen and who is also resident in India, only that person can be the member or a nominee of a OPC. Now this has been amended and see what they have done, whether resident in India or otherwise. आप देखो बेयर एक्ट में they have said, so before the amendment what was written there, and resident in India. So what was the rule here? The rule was only natural person who is an Indian citizen and a resident in India. But now they have changed it and they have made it what? Whether resident in India or otherwise. So what does this mean? What does this mean? And this has been amended again with effect from 1st April 2021. Okay. So what does this mean? So if you remember in the foundation class, we had studied this way that Priyanka Chopra is an Indian citizen. She is a natural person, but she is not a resident in India. Now, because she is not a resident in India, okay, if she is not a resident in India, she cannot incorporate a OPC. Yes or no? Remember this example? This was before. But now, can Priyanka Chopra incorporate a OPC in India? Answer is yes, after this amendment. So with effect from 1st April 2021, now Priyanka Chopra is also eligible to incorporate a OPC in India. Okay. A. But still, the requirement of natural person and the Indian citizen, this is still mandatory. This is still mandatory. Okay. So this is an amendment. So this is otherwise. This is with effect from 1st April 2021. Now, do you understand how quickly the law changes? How quickly the law changes? You'll not believe, in the month of March, I purchased a book. The 120 days is also amended. Where is this 120 days? 120 days कहाँ पे आ गया? Explanation. अभी एक simple सा बात बताओ. Earlier they said that a person who is resident in India only can incorporate the OPC. But now the definition says whether resident or otherwise. Now tell me, does this explanation hold any value? Does this explanation hold any value? These two explanations? That is the reason I had skipped it. Because earlier when the rule said that the person should be resident in India, only then the person can incorporate OPC. So who is a resident was important. But अभी तो फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता ना भाई, आप रेसिडेंट हो चाहे नहीं हो, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. आया समझ में? इज दिस क्लियर? सो आप लॉ देखो इस स्पीड से अमेंड होता है कि 6 महीने के बाद, आप देखो हम 6 महीने पहले हम कुछ और पढ़ रहे थे, 6 महीने बाद लॉ में ऐसा अमेंडमेंट आ गया. यू विल नॉट बिलीव, इन मार्च मंथ आई हैव परचेज्ड अ बुक ऑन कंपनीज एक्ट which has almost costed me 12,000 rupees. Even that book is not updated now. Just imagine, that book is also not updated right now. Even that is partially updated. ये सारे amendments उसमें नहीं है. So even if I have to read, so that is the reason I say the ebook is one of the best source, because the ebook contains the most amended version of all the provisions. Okay, right? और मैं इसीलिए आप लोगों को मॉड्यूल के ट्रैक में ही पढ़ाऊंगा, बट आई विल ऑल्सो कीप द कंटेंट फ्रॉम द बेयर एक्ट, ताकि एग्जाम के बाद आपको इस चीज का प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो दैट सर दिस हैज बीन अमेंडेड, व्हाट हैज बीन अमेंडेड, बिकॉज यू आर स्टडिंग द portion with amendments. Sorry, you are studying the portion with amendments only. Okay, plus you can also now compare what is changed now. So earlier what it was, now what it is. So आप as chartered accountant अभी से आप सीखना लग जाओगे the impact analysis, very very important impact analysis. Amendment से बहुत सारे students घबराते हैं, but I always say you should be happy if during your preparation amendments come, because that amendments gives you a chance to understand what was before and what is now, plus also apply your mind and get to know the logic why this law has been amended. So if you get to know the reason for why, what automatically comes in your mind? अभी आप मुझे बताओ ये क्यों चेंज किया होगा, ये क्यों चेंज किया होगा, जस्ट टेल मी ये क्यों चेंज किया होगा? पहले बोला ओनली रेसिडेंट इन इंडिया, व्हाई रेसिडेंट थिंग हैज बीन रिप्लेस्ड? एनी आइडिया क्यों रिप्लेस किया होगा? मतलब कोई तो लॉजिक होगा ना, there must be some logic that we want to replace resident with any other, but the person should be a Indian citizen. It's okay, which means now even NRI can also invest, even the Indian citizens who are outside India can also incorporate. So why we want NRIs and Indian citizens who are outside India to come and incorporate OPC in India? Why do we want? Why do we say that Priyanka Chopra, you can incorporate the company here? Why? Because when Priyanka Chopra will incorporate a OPC in India, she is going to bring what? Foreign direct investment, right? We have been reading about FDI flow and the FPI flow lately in the market. A lot of FDI. India is now the biggest. During the pandemic, India has got received the maximum FDI and FPI. Yes or no? So we want foreign direct investment in India. So more investments will take place in India. So earlier NRIs who were not allowed to incorporate a OPC are now allowed to, right? Earlier they were disallowed. Now they are allowed to incorporate OPC in India. Guys, is this clear? Do you understand the logic? Okay. So let's go ahead and now cover. So this is what is there in OPC. अब मुझे बताओ OPC पे एक चाहे 3 मार्क का क्वेश्चन है, 2 मार्क का क्वेश्चन है, MCQ क्वेश्चन है, या फिर एक फुल फ्लेजेड क्वेश्चन आ जाए ओपीसी पे, क्या आप सब चीजें लिख सकते हो? इसके अलावा ओपीसी में कुछ भी नहीं है. ओके ओके, आई हैव वन मोर क्वेश्चन. दिस वी हैव नॉट स्टडीड टिल नाउ, बट आई हैव वन क्वेश्चन. कैन यू हैव 5 directors in a OPC? Can you have 5 directors in the OPC? Member can only be one, but can I have more than one director in the OPC? Can I say I can appoint more than one directors in the OPC? I want 4 directors. Can I do so? Prathamesh is saying no. Yash is saying no. Vineet is saying yes. Okay. Vineet, why are you saying yes? And Yash, Prathamesh, why no? आप लोग ऐसा क्यों बोलते हो? और विनीत आप भी क्यों बोल रहे हो? जुस्टिफिए. Directors are not the members of the company. Vineet is saying directors are not members of the company. Ultimately, you need to see that The restriction is only on the number of members and not on the directors. So if the directors are not the members of the company, then they can be. Okay. Yash, Prathamesh, what is your logic? Yash, Prathamesh. So Yash is saying the member is also considered to be the director in case of OPC. So only one member and one director. Now tell me, of course, the member is considered to be the director in case of OPC, but is there any restriction that you cannot have more than one director? Have you came across any such provision? कोई भी ऐसा रूल सेक्शन सबसेक्शन आपको मिला जिसने बोला कि ओबीसी में आप एक से ज्यादा डायरेक्टर्स नहीं रख सकते? आंसर इज नो. मेंबर्स के लिए क्लियरली लिखा ना. मेंबर्स के लिए कैसे क्लियरली लिखा दैट यू कैन नॉट हैव मोर देन वन डायरेक्टर, यू कैन नॉट हैव मोर देन वन मेंबर. बट क्या डायरेक्टर्स के लिए ऐसा कुछ लिखा है? नहीं लिखा. which means a company can have a OPC can have more than one director. Okay, there can be more than one director, and the power or how can they appoint, this is given in section 149. याद रखना फाइनल में आपको मिलेगा. You'll not get it in intermediate to read section 149, but section 149 it says that a company can appoint, right, more than one director. Okay, but minimum in case of a public company we need three directors, private company two directors, and in case of OPC only one director, and maximum of 15 directors. Okay, yes, maximum 15 directors, maximum 15 directors. And then if you want more than 15 directors in the company, you need to pass a special resolution, and then you can appoint more than 15 directors also. So I want 50 directors in the company, I want 60 directors in the company. Go and pass a special resolution. If your members agree, there is no problem. You can appoint more than one director, more than 15 directors. Okay. So same in case of OPC also. You can have, you should have minimum one director, maximum 15 directors, and if they want more than 15, then special resolution is to be passed, right? So just remember this can be one of the MCQ question, that can the company have more than OPC? Can they have more than one directors? You'll have to mention that. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and start with a section 8 company. And this is going to be the last topic for the day. As promised, today I'll leave you guys early because we'll not have much topic to cover here. Right. So OPC we have already done. So we can say ordinary resolution pass हो गया. Okay. अभी बस खाली क्या करना है? 100% resolution pass करना है. Unanimous resolution. After studying section 8, we'll do that. Also, one more thing. When I asked you that can I appoint more than one director? So one more answer to this will be कहाँ पे मना किया है? कहीं पे मना किया है क्या? Remember, we discussed about the kind of constitution we have it in India, right? If nothing is, if something is not disallowed, then it is allowed. So it has to be expressly disallowed that no, you cannot have more than one director. If you have, that will be in the violation of the Companies Act. Then we can say, okay, you cannot have. But if nothing is mentioned, then you are free. You can appoint more than one director. Got it? Right? Okay. Let's go ahead and study section 8. So a not-for-profit company, section 8 company. Now this section 8 company is a not-for-profit company, but can a not-for-profit company or a section 8 company earn profit? Can they earn profit? Answer is yes. The company can earn profit, but the profit is again to be applied for the same objective. Okay. So even this is a not for profit company. It can still earn profit. Okay. Now answer one question. Then why do we call it as not for profit company? Why are Section 8 companies called as not for profit company? Why it is called as not for profit company? If it can still earn profit, why it is called as not for profit company? So members में profit distribute नहीं कर सकते, they cannot declare dividend, the profits are not distributed. Okay, it's fine, but then why it is said not for profit company? It should be not for dividend company. Dhaval, right? Can't it be said not for dividend company? Because what is restricted is to distribute the dividend. Ritik is saying charitable object. Okay. It's because the objective of the company is not to earn the profit. Okay. Why this is because the objective of the company is not to earn profit. आपका ऑब्जेक्टिव प्रॉफिट अर्न करना नहीं है. नहीं, आप मेंबर्स के वेलफेयर के लिए नहीं बोलोगे. आप ये बोलोगे the objective to promote the objective is to promote commerce, art, science, sports, research, education, social welfare, charity, religion, protection of environment. And while doing all this, if we earn profit, right, this profit will be again used to promote the same object. Okay, the profit will be used to earn the same objective, and this profit will not be distributed as dividend. Okay, this profit will not be used or distributed as dividend. Now Vineet is asking, investors do not invest with the motive to earn the profit, right? So the objective is not to earn the profit. The objective is again to promote the objective. Correct. Okay, so just remember. Okay, let's go ahead then and discuss section 8. So it says that where it is proved to the satisfaction of central government. Now, who is central government here? Who is central government here? Who is central government? MCA? No. Ministry of Corporate Affairs? Okay. The power has been delegated to whom? Correct. Correct. Though Ministry of Corporate Affairs is not wrong. Okay. Though Ministry of Corporate Affairs is not wrong. That is correct. What you have said is correct. But you have to see that at the end of the day, who is going to do the work for Ministry of Corporate Affairs or on behalf of Ministry of Corporate Affairs? It is the regional director. So I'll tell you one thing. Just go and open section 8 here and click on this central government. A new dialog box will open and this is the notification. So what it says that in exercise of the power which is conferred by section 458 of the Companies Act and in suppression of the notification by the Government of India, Ministry of Corporate Affairs and blah 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 blah. What it says that the central government delegates hereby delegates the power to the registrar of companies. Okay, and all those things which will be given. So for section 4 subsection 2, section 8 subsection 1 and all these. So these powers have been given to the registrar of companies. Guys, is this clear? Guys, is this clear? Okay. All right. Let's go ahead then. Read this. So then it says that where it is proved to the satisfaction of the central government that a person or association of person proposed to be registered under this act as a limited company. Now tell me, can a Section 8 company be an unlimited company? Can a Section 8 company be an unlimited company? क्या आप एक अनलिमिटेड कंपनी को सेक्शन 8 कंपनी बना सकते हो? आंसर इज नो. Why? Answer is why. No is correct, but why? What is the logic? Answer is why. ऐसा क्यों? Why you are saying this? Why this? You all are correct, but why this? Central government position? No, because the act says that under section 8, the company which is proposed to be registered as a limited company. So section 8, which gives the provision for registering a not-for-profit company, okay? Not-for-profit company says that the company will have to be a limited company, okay? Is this clear? Is this clear? And just small change. Here it is going to be registrar of companies, not regional director. It will be ROC. Okay. The power has been given to the ROC. Okay. Not to the regional director. Other places you will find regional director, but here it is ROC. Okay. So the act says that it can be registered. Okay. As a limited company, and the company will have an object, has in the object of the promotion of commerce, arts, science, sports, education, research, social welfare, religion, charity, protection of environment, and such other object. Such other object means इसी के extension में. And intends to apply its profit, if any, or other income, again in promoting its objects, and also intends to prohibit the payment of any dividend to the members. तो इनके ऑब्जेक्टिव्स क्या है फॉर द प्रमोशन, एंड जो भी प्रॉफिट्स ये अर्न करेंगे या जो भी अदर इनकम अर्न करेंगे दैट विल बी अगेन यूज्ड टू प्रमोट द ऑब्जेक्टिव ओनली. एंड at last if you see, it prohibits the payment of dividend. Then in that case the central government may by license issue in such manner as may be prescribed and on such conditions as it deems fit, allow the person or the association of person to be registered as, just see, as a limited company. Got it? Do you understand? So a section 8 company cannot be, a section 8 company cannot be an unlimited company. A section 8 company cannot be an unlimited company. Okay. Is this clear? Right? आगे देखिए. Under this section, without the addition to the name of the word limited, as the case may be, the words private limited, and thereupon register on the application in the prescribed form, register such person or association as a company under this section. So basically, second point is that a section 8 company need not have or need not suffix limited or private limited. ये दोनों उनके नाम के एंड में नहीं होना चाहिए। ओके, इज दिस क्लियर? मतलब उनको रखना जरूरी नहीं है, इट इज नॉट मैंडेटरी। वो रखे तो अलग बात है, बट वो अपने नाम के एंड में इसको नहीं रखे तो चलेगा। So even if they earn profit, they will use it again in promoting their objectives only. और ध्यान रखना, section 8 company, it gets what? Section 8. So basically it is the ROC on behalf of central government issues license to the section 8 company. Okay. Then we have subsection 2. So the company registered under this section shall enjoy all the privileges be subject to and the obligations of a limited company. So whatever privileges which are there for a limited company, the company will have all such privileges. Then a firm may be the member of the company registered under this section. So what does this mean? What does this mean? A firm may be the member. A firm may be the member. And what is so peculiar about it? What is so peculiar about it? मतलब क्या इतना बड़ा बात क्या हो गया? क्यों ये highlighted point है? हाँ, यहाँ पे क्या point है? That a firm, even though is not a legal entity, can also become the member. Okay. So just remember, I'll highlight this point and I'll explain it here. That a firm, even though is not a, मैं इसको dark green color से highlight कर रहा हूँ and I'll write the explanation at the end. So I'll put this in dark green color. And I'll put an explanation to this. And what is the explanation? That firm, even though is not a legal entity, right, can become member. Is this clear? LLP to is a separate legal entity. LLP is a separate legal entity. Of course, for when we use the word firm, we include partnership firm as well as the LLP. But in here, if you see, LLP can become the member of a company. But the problem is with the partnership firm. A partnership firm cannot. But in case of a Section 8 company, even the partnership firm can become the member. Okay. Then we have a company registered under this section shall not alter the provisions of its memorandum or articles of association except with the previous approval of the central government. So each time they alter their memorandum or articles of association, they need to go back to ROC, seek their permission, and only then they will be allowed to do that. Then they say a company registered under this section may convert itself into a company for any other kind only after complying with such conditions as may be prescribed. So what does this mean? What does this mean? If a company wants to convert, then what the company will have to do? They'll have to comply with the conditions. So what conditions are there? So basically, they need to comply with Rule 21. They need to comply with Rule 21. Okay. So let's go back to the ebook. I think I missed the rules here. So we'll discuss it from here. Just check. So it says a company registered as may be prescribed. So we have Rule 21. So this is the condition. This is the condition how you can convert a Section 8 company into a non-Section 8 company. Guys, is this clear? Guys, is this clear? What we are discussing? Conditions for conversion of a company registered under Section 8 into any other kind. So Section 8 company to a non-Section 8 company. Don't worry, I'll include this in your slide at the end of the lecture. Okay, but let's just read it from here right now. So what does it say? It says that a company registered under Section 8 intends to convert itself into a company of any other kind shall pass the special resolution. So what is the first requirement if you want to convert the company? The first requirement is that you need to pass a special resolution. Then it says that the explanatory statement shall it should annexed. Now, what is explanatory statement? So basically, when you have to pass a special resolution, you have to send notice. Like when you will do the general meeting of a company, you'll have to send notice for the meeting to your members. So you can understand it from this way, because most of you, all of you are from Mumbai only rather. So in the society also, when the meeting happens, don't you see the notice comes at your place? The notice is sent at your place, right? When the notice is sent at your place. So same way, when the meeting of the company is going to take place, the company is going to send notice. And in that notice, they will add a explanatory statement. What is that explanatory statement? Where they will say that we want to pass special resolution, or we want to pass this particular business. Okay. So we'll discuss in detail about the explanatory statement. But as of now, just understand there is a special business which is to be discussed. Okay. And we want to pass a resolution for this purpose. So what that special business is all about, you are mentioning that in the explanatory statement. So you'll have to mention all the details. So sometimes what is to be part of the explanatory statement is given in the Companies Act itself. Like here it has been given that when the explanatory statement will go, the explanatory statement annexed to the notice convening the general meeting shall set out the reasons for opting such conversion. So again, the second condition is that if there is an explanatory statement, so basically there will be the explanatory statement along with the notice that should contain the reason why we are converting a Section 8 company into a non-Section 8 company, along with the following details. What is the date of incorporation? What is the principal objects set out in the memorandum of association? Reason as to why activities for achieving the objectives of the company cannot be carried out in the current structure. So basically you need to say that now we cannot run this company anymore. Why you cannot do? Then the principal or the main objects of the company are proposed to be altered, and what would be the altered objectives and the reasons for that. Then what are the privileges and concessions currently enjoyed by the company? Like there are other tax exemptions and everything to a Section 8 company. There are list of exemptions which are there. So you need to mention that. Then the details of the impact of proposed conversion on the members of the company, including any benefit which may accrue to the members as a result of conversion. So what if this Section 8 company gets converted? Do the members will have any special benefit out of it, right? If there is any benefit, please mention that. And then this explanatory statement along with the special resolution, you will also file it to the registrar of company in form MJT 14. So don't worry about the form numbers and all. You don't need to remember, but certainly MJT 14 is one form which you will remember for sure, right? You'll automatically remember. You don't have to remember MJT 14. Not to sit and learn actually what is MJT 14. वो आपको वैसे ही याद हो जाएगा. When Companies Act 2013 was passed, so there was a WhatsApp forward message, right? And it was like कि अब तो ऐसी हालत हो गई है गालिब कि अगर कब्र के पास से भी गुजरो तो कंपनी सेक्रेटरी की आत्मा यही पूछेगी MJT 14 फाइल कर दिया ना, right? So this was the terror of MJT 14, right? Because so many the provisions of MJT 14 were so strong. So everyone used to be worried about MJT 14, right? So don't worry about that. फॉर्म नंबर्स आपको याद वैसे नहीं रखने हैं. एक स्पाइस फॉर्म मैंने आपको बोला, स्पाइस प्लस, वो आपको याद रखना है. एंड देन MJT 14, ये आपको ऑटोमेटिकली वैसे ही याद हो जाएगा, बिकॉज MJT 14 इतनी बार आएगा आपके सामने कि वो ऑटोमेटिकली आपको वैसे ही याद हो जाएगा. तो आप रजिस्ट्रार को MJT 14 अलॉन्ग विद द एक्सप्लेनेटरी स्टेटमेंट वो आप यहाँ पे फाइल करोगे, और उसके बाद में आप एप्लीकेशन दोगे रीजनल डायरेक्टर को along with the special resolution and the copy of the notice of the meeting explanatory statement, और उसके बाद में आप इसको अनेक्स करोगे एंड देन द कॉपी विल बी फाइल्ड विद द रजिस्ट्रार। तो ये आपका पूरा प्रोसेस है। सो बेसिकली कन्वर्जन अगर करना है आपको एक सेक्शन 8 कंपनी को नॉन सेक्शन 8 कंपनी के लिए, सो व्हाट नीड्स टू बी डन broadly, if you see, you need to pass a special resolution, you need to provide the explanatory statement along with the reasons for such conversion. Guys, is this clear? Guys, is this clear? Again, for your understanding, I'll put this in your slide. Okay, so let's go back again to our own PPT. So this is there. So you need to comply rule 21, where what you need to do, you need to pass a special resolution plus the notice and the explanatory statement where you will provide the reasons why you are doing this conversion. Then again, we have subsection 5 where it says that if, let's say, the central government, where it is proved to the satisfaction of central government that a limited company registered under this act or under any previous company law has been formed with any of the objects specified in clause A of subsection 1 and with the restrictions and prohibitions mentioned in respectively clauses B and C of that subsection, it may by license allow the company to be registered under this section subject to the conditions as central government may deem fit, and to change the name by omitting the word limited, or as the case may be private limited. So as I said, the section 8 company need not suffix the word limited or private limited at the end of the name, but this is again subject to the approval. This is subject to the approval. So this is the approval which has been given here. Then they say the central government can also what it can, by the order, it can revoke the license which is granted to a company registered under this section if when the company contravenes the requirements of this section, right? Or we get to know, so this can be an independent question. When will the license of a section 8 company be revoked? So if it is, let's say, the company contravenes the provision, so if the company contravenes the requirements of this section, or let's say it contravenes any condition subject to which the license was issued to the company, or let's say the affairs of the company are conducted fraudulently, or they are conducted in a manner which is violative of the objectives of the company, or let's say it is prejudicial to the public interest, right? Then without prejudice to any other action against the company under the Companies Act, it will direct the company to convert its status and change the name and add the word limited or the word private limited as the case may be to its name upon the register. So basically the privileges will be given to you, will be taken back. Now please use the word limited and private limited at the end of the name of the company, and also your company will be converted into a non-section 8 company. Now this conversion will be done by the ROC itself. The ROC itself is going to convert the name of the company. Okay. Provided no such order shall be made unless the company is being given a reasonable opportunity of being heard. So reasonable opportunity of being heard will be given to the company. Of course, after that the order will be made and the copy of such order will be given to the registrar also. Thereafter, where the license is revoked under subsection 6, the central government may by order, if it is satisfied that it is essential in the public interest, it will also direct the company to be wound up. So let's say the company is now violating the provisions, they have violated the provisions, and now the fraud and everything is so huge that the central government says that wind up this company. So again, this company could be wound up, or this company could be amalgamated with another company registered under this section which is for the same purpose. So what does this mean? So let's say you have incorporated ABC Limited or ABC as a section 8 company which was for the promotion of sports. Now there is another PQR Limited. Now let's say ABC Limited has done the violations and all. So either ABC Limited will be wound up or ABC Limited will be merged with another section 8 company, that is PQR Limited, which is again for the promotion of sports only. So that can be done. But again, a reasonable opportunity of being heard will be given before such a order is being made. Then again, where a license has been revoked, the central government in the public interest, it can also do the same thing. It can amalgamate. It should be amalgamated with another company registered under this section, and it must have a similar object. Okay. It should have a similar object. If the similar objects is not there, then again, the company cannot be amalgamated. So if I say PQR is a section 8 company for the promotion of religion and ABC is for the promotion of sports, तो फिर ये रिश्ता नहीं हो पाएगा. ठीक है, आप अलग अलग ऑब्जेक्टिव से बने हो, so again this will be not applicable. Then if upon the winding up or dissolution of a company, there remains after the satisfaction of the debts and liabilities any assets, then this will be transferred to another company registered under this section having the same objects. So basically what it is trying to say कि amalgamation नहीं किया हमने, ABC और PQR का amalgamation नहीं किया, ABC को हमने wound up कर दिया. Now I have also said you what is the process of winding up. The liquidator will be appointed. Okay. After the liquidator is appointed, the entire funds are being given to the liquidator. The assets are given to the liquidator. Liquidator will realize all the assets and it is going to pay the liabilities. All the debts will be repaid. Correct. After that, whatever amount is left, you distribute it to the shareholders of the company. But here, the winding up is done because the members have done the violation, or the directors or the management of the company has done some violation. So the amount will not be distributed to the members of the company. The amount will be in return given to some other section 8 company so that they can promote the objectives of the company. Guys, is this clear? Guys, is this clear? Upon the winding up, आपने एबीसी को वाउंड अप कर दिया, अब उसका पैसा एबीसी के मेंबर्स को नहीं मिलेगा. सरप्लस अगर बच गया तो वो बाकी किसी और सेक्शन 8 कंपनी को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दिया जाएगा. ओके. देन अ कंपनी रजिस्टर्ड अंडर दिस सेक्शन शैल अमेलगमेट विद अनदर कंपनी हैविंग सिमिलर ऑब्जेक्टिव्स. तो ये भी बताएं. अब तो ये किसका बात. सो व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द अमेलगमेशन अंडर सबसेक्शन 10 एंड अमेलगमेशन अंडर सबसेक्शन 8. सबसेक्शन 8 के अमेलगमेशन में, बाय द वे अमेलगमेशन का मतलब क्या होता है, जब दो कंपनी को हम मर्ज कर देते हैं, एक साथ ला देते हैं, तो उसको हम बोलते हैं अमेलगमेशन. ए प्लस बी इज इक्वल टू ए, और ए प्लस बी इज इक्वल टू बी, और ए प्लस बी इज इक्वल टू ए बी, or a plus b is equal to c. All this is what? This is amalgamation. So if I say a plus b is equal to a, this means b limited is now merged with a. If I say a plus b is equal to b, this means a is now merged with b. If I say a plus b is equal to ab, then both the companies have merged together. बराबर, रिश्ता बराबरी का है. And if I say a plus b is equal to c, this means they both have merged together and they have incorporated a new company C Limited. Okay. So इसी तरह से आपको ये मिलेगा. Now tell me, what is the difference between the amalgamation under subsection 8 and subsection 10? So subsection 8 is due to the violation. Correct, correct. Yash has answered. Subsection 8 is the compulsory amalgamation due to the violation, and subsection 10 is due to the voluntary. This is voluntary, there is no violation done. Then again, subsection 11 is for the compliance for the penal provisions. Now penal provisions are also changed. Just check, your module must have some other amount, but here the amount has been all changed. So imprisonment has been taken away. Only the penal provision is there, monetary penalty, which is from 25,000, which may extend up to 25 lakh rupees. And again, if you find that the affairs of the section 8 company is in violation, it was fraudulently conducted, then in that case again section 447, which is for fraud, इसके against आपका case start हो जाएगा. Okay guys, clear? Is this clear? Right. So formation of the company which is for the charitable objects. So this is all in there, your section 8 company. Now again, if we discuss, we have section 9 which says that from the date of incorporation mentioned in the certificate of incorporation, such subscribers to the memorandum and all other person as may from time to time become the members of the company shall be a body corporate. So the company will become what? The company will become body corporate and by the name contained in the memorandum of association. So it's the section 9 which makes the company a body corporate. So we have already had a discussion about it. Okay. Now tell me, I have one question. I have one question that Larsen and Tubro, these two were the promoters of L&T and they had subscribed to the memorandum of association of L&T. Okay. And this was, I think, 1938. L&T was set up in 1938. Incorporation year, business and commercial knowledge, right? 1938. Okay. So L&T was set up in 1938. In the year 2021, Ronak has purchased 100 shares of L&T. Ronak has purchased 100 shares of L&T, plus Ronak is now become the member of L&T. Okay. Now, when I say the memorandum of association and the subscribers, so Larsen and Tubro, okay, this is basically they are the subscribers to the memorandum of association and the memorandum of association. So this is a contract between the subscribers and the company. Yes or no? I said you the memorandum of association is basically what? It is a contract between the subscribers and the company. Correct? So this is company and you have MOA. So MOA acts like a contract. Contract between the company and subscribers. Just see this. Tell me, this contract will bind, this contract will bind Larsen, Tubro and the company. Yes or no? The memorandum of association will bind the Larsen, Tubro and the company. Yes or no? Because they are bound by the contract. Yes or no? They are bound by the contract. Now answer my this question. Is Ronak bound by the memorandum of association of L&T? Do you understand my question? Is Ronak bound by the memorandum of association of L&T? Because he has not signed the memorandum of association. He has not signed the memorandum of association. So is he bound? Ronak is answering no. Okay. Now I want Ronak you to read section 9. I want you to read section 9. I want you to read section number 9. Now Ronak has changed the answer, right? So just remember, it is not just the subscribers to the memorandum who are bound by the memorandum of association. It is also, because they have written here, as may be from time to time, all other persons as may be time to time who become the member of the company, right? They will also be bound by the memorandum of association. Guys, is this clear? Guys, is this clear? ये part clear हुआ? Right? So with this, we have finished the incorporation part. Okay. We have finished the incorporation part, and then tomorrow we will start with the memorandum part. As I said you, 1 से 2 लेक्चर में हमारा ये पार्ट कंप्लीट हो जाएगा. So memorandum incorporation is finished. Tomorrow we'll start with the memorandum and articles, and I think we'll require another 2 lectures to finish this. Sir, is this a case law of 9? No, no, this is not a case law. This is not case law of 9. This is the interpretation of 9. So if you get the question, though you'll not get a question on this part. Okay, you are asking me the case laws of section 9. Okay, good. You mentioned it. Anyway, just check. So this is the case law from your module. So this case law says that, first case law, it says that from the date of incorporation mentioned in the certificate, the company becomes a legal person which is separate from the incorporators, that is the promoters, and they come into existence as a binding contract between the company and its members as evidenced by the memorandum of association and articles of association. Okay. Also, it has a perpetual existence. What do you mean by perpetual existence? Till infinite life. It has an infinite life until it is dissolved by the liquidation or it is struck out of the register by the law. Okay. So a shareholder who buys share but does not buy any interest in the property of the company, but will have. So basically what you have to see, when you buy the shares of a company, you cannot say I am also the proportionate owner of the company. Okay. You're not the proportionate owner of the company. If you have purchased the shares of the company, you cannot say the company's property also belongs to me. So go and sell the property of the company and give me. So let's say I buy 10% of the shares of a company. So I cannot go and sit in the building of the company and say 10% of the building belongs to me. 10% of the plant and machinery belongs to me. Got the point? Because you are just buying the share. You're not buying the interest in the property of the company. The property still belongs to the company. Okay. Guys, this is clear. Then a legal personality emerges from the moment of registration of a company, and from that moment, the person subscribing to the MOA and other persons joining as member are regarded as the body corporate or a corporation in aggregate, and the legal person begins to function as an entity. This is again fine, similar points. And a company on registration acquires a separate existence, and law recognizes it as a legal person separate and distinct from its members. So this is again, you have studied in the Salomon versus Salomon case also. Then it may be noted that under the provisions of this act, a company may purchase shares of another company, right? So it is possible one company can invest. I also mentioned you about section 186 yesterday, right? Yesterday, or I think in the definitions lecture, I had also mentioned. However, merely because a company purchases all shares of another company, it will not serve as a means of putting end to the corporate character. So even as I say, wholly owned subsidiary company. So there is H Limited and there is a wholly owned subsidiary S Limited, right? Now you cannot say H and S both are same. H is different company, S is different company, even though the 100% shares of S are held by H. Okay. Also, the law recognizes such company as a jurisdic person separate and distinct from its member, and the mere fact that the entire share capital has been contributed by central government and that all the shares are held by the President of India and the officers of the central government does not make it in the position of a registered, and it does not make it as the agent of the President and the central government. So again, this is a famous case law, right? And there is another case law from the division bench of Bombay High Court. There it was again said, basically, there is a government company जिसको कि आपको क्या करना है, वाउंड अप करना है. You want to wound up a government company. Does this mean that you are winding up the government? Does this mean that you are winding up the government? आप एक गवर्नमेंट कंपनी को बंद करने के लिए कोर्ट में जा रहे हो और आप कोर्ट को बोलते हो इस गवर्नमेंट कंपनी को बंद करो, तो क्या इसका ये मतलब है आप गवर्नमेंट को बंद कर रहे हो? आंसर इज नो. द गवर्नमेंट इज सेपरेट, द गवर्नमेंट कंपनी इज सेपरेट. सो दैट्स व्हाट इज हियर. तो इस गवर्नमेंट कंपनी को आप गवर्नमेंट का एजेंट भी नहीं बोलोगे. ओके. Is this clear? So this is what we have covered till now. Tomorrow we'll start with the provisions for the memorandum of association and the articles of association. Tomorrow be prepared. We'll have a complete 2-hour lecture. Okay. So that's it for today. Take care. Bye bye.